Vincent Drucci, also known as the Schemer, was an American mobster during Chicago's Prohibition era who was a member of the North Side Gang, Al Capone's best-known rivals. A friend of Dean O'Banion, Drucci succeeded him by becoming co-leader. He is the only American organized crime boss to have been killed by a policeman. He joined Dean O'Banion's North Side Gang, which had taken over the formerly legal breweries and distilleries in that part of the city, giving them massive profits from illicit production of alcohol, in addition to shakedowns and other rackets. Often described as mainly Irish-American, after O'Banion's death the North Side Gang was successively headed by Hemi Weiss, Drucci and Bugs Moran, who were respectively of Polish, Italian and French descent, while the most influential members who never became leader were Louis Altieri, of Spanish parentage, Samuel Morton, who was from a Jewish background, and the German Albert Kachelek. Though a leading member of the relatively small gang, Drucci acted as enforcer and was actively involved in numerous violent incidents. On one occasion, when ambushed in the street by gunmen with a Capone trademark drive-by, he charged at the assailants and tried to give chase in a hijacked car. He was known by the nickname the Schemer, in part because of his penchant for inebriated rumination about outlandish plans. In reality, he operated by intimidation in activities such as extortion of money from legitimate businesses. One female shop owner who refused to pay was beaten up by a husky woman as Drucci looked on. Drucci, whose practical jokes including making salacious comments to couples on the street while dressed as a priest, performed in a 1923 pornographic film called Bob's Hot Story. Drucci was believed to have been responsible for a November 30th, 1926 incident at a Chicago North Side garage. In what the Chicago Tribune described as a serious comedy, Drucci, along with North Side Gang members Bugs Moran, Frank Gussenberg, and Pete Gussenberg, are alleged to have entered the garage where two Chicago police officers were securing 50 cases of seized beer. Claiming to be a federal agent, Drucci ordered the others to handcuff the officers and confiscate their guns, showing no interest in the seized beer, and left with the officers still handcuffed. The incident humiliated the Chicago Police Department, which was already more sympathetic to the North Siders' rivals, the Capone organization. The North Siders found themselves undercut on the price of alcohol by rivals the Jenna crime family, which was allied to the Italian-American South Side Gang led by Johnny Torrio, who had pretensions of citywide overlordship. O'Banion at first tried to get Torrio to rein in the Jennas. When Torrio failed to do so, O'Banion started hijacking the Jennas shipments. The Jennas wanted to kill O'Banion, but Sicilian politician Mike Merlo, head of the Chicago chapter of Union Siciliana and an underworld power broker due to his political influence, vetoed the killing. On November 10, 1924, days after Merlo had died of an illness, Torrio men John Scalise and Albert Anselmi arrived at O'Banion's Chicago flower shop, ostensibly arranging floral tributes for Merlo's funeral, and murdered O'Banion. The North Side Gang then moved against the Jennas and the South Side Gang in retaliation. As a result of O'Banion's death, the leadership fell to Hemi Weiss, who initiated a string of retaliatory attacks on the Jennas and Torrio. On January 25, 1925, Drucci, Weiss, and Moran ambushed Torrio's bodyguard Lieutenant, Al Capone, shooting up his car, but failing to kill him. His bodyguard was then kidnapped, tortured, and murdered. On January 27th, Drucci and the two other Northsiders ambushed Torrio while he was shopping with his wife. While severely wounded, Torrio survived the attack. At one point, police brought Drucci and Weiss to Torrio's hospital bedside, but Torrio refused to identify them as the shooters. After his recovery and a short jail term, Torrio relinquished control of the South Side Gang to Capone and returned to Italy. On May 25, Drucci, Weiss, and Moran killed South Side ally Angelo Jenna. On July 8, Drucci and a second gunman murdered Tony Jenna. On November 13, they murdered Jenna gunman Samuzzo Amatuna in a barber shop. The owner of his favorite restaurant was also kidnapped and murdered, and Capone began referring to Drucci as the bedbug. On August 10, 1926, Drucci and Weiss were ambushed by Capone gunmen on a Chicago street and shot their way out. 5 days later, Drucci and Weiss exchanged shots with Capone's men in a rerun assassination attempt at the same location. The North Side Gang responded with an even more high-profile assassination attempt, using a ploy to lure Capone to the front of the Cicero, Illinois hotel in which he lived, and then firing hundreds of rounds through the windows. Capone was shaken, but unhurt. On October 11, Capone's men killed Weiss outside the Holy Name Cathedral as he walked from his car to the gang's headquarters. Drucci and Moran now assumed leadership of the North Side gang. After Weiss' shooting, Drucci and Moran attended a peace conference with all the Chicago gangs, including the Southsiders. Although Moran wanted to keep fighting, Drucci persuaded him to accept a ceasefire. In 1927, William Hale Thompson, at the head of his powerful Cook County machine that included strong support among African American districts, attempted to return as mayor. Thompson's campaign statements were interpreted as an indication that if he won, the city would have a relaxed attitude to law enforcement, and he was seen as Capone's man. There were complex interactions between the political and ethnic aspects of the rivalries. Irish-American politicians attempted to paint Thompson as an anti-Catholic Anglo-Saxon chauvinist, despite his Capone-influenced Italian First Ward support. However, Thompson's perceived beholdenness to African-American voters also led to shifting of allegiance among voters, which partially nullified his political machine. Capone resorted to an escalation of violence to ensure the political contest would be decided in Thompson's favor. A citywide gang war erupted at the prospect of Capone getting a mayor inimical to all his rivals. On April 3, 1927, Drucci decided to take the offensive by ransacking the office of Devers-supporting Alderman Dorsey Crowe. The Chicago Police Department chief then ordered his men to arrest all North Side gang members on site. On April 4, 1927, Chicago police arrested Drucci and found a concealed .45 pistol. One of the arresting officers was Detective Dan Healy, who had shot an armed robber dead a few months earlier. Exploits such as a near-fatal beating of Capone rival Joseph Saltus during a November 1926 saloon raid had gained Healy a reputation for apoplectic violence against criminals, though not always in the line of duty. Drucci objected to being held by the arm while waiting for the car that would take him and two associates arrested at the same time to the courthouse, where Drucci's lawyer was waiting to post bail. He insulted Healy, who responded with a slap, then drew and brandished his gun and threatened to shoot Drucci. In the car, the argument continued. One account is that the policeman who had been present during the incident supported Healy's version of events. That Drucci, while announcing his intention, had lunged for Healy's gun, but Healy had drawn back then shot Drucci. Drucci's two associates gave a different account, asserting that a scuffle started after Healy punched Drucci, causing the driver to halt the car at the roadside, whereupon Healy had got out on the running board before drawing and firing at Drucci, who was shot while sitting in the car, handcuffed, with his hands in his lap. Hit in the arm, leg, and abdomen, Drucci collapsed, dying on the floor of the car. Healy and the other policeman's version of the death was accepted by the authorities. He received a lavish funeral at Mount Carmel Cemetery in Hillside, Illinois, that was typical gangland fashion at the time. Drucci's silver casket cost $10,000 and more than $30,000 in flowers adorned the funeral rooms.